In this worksheet and video, I'm going to show you how to use the payment function and the future value function. And the sheet that I have currently displayed is the credit union sheet, and this is from the Chapter 2 lecture student file. So we'll go ahead and we'll work on the right-hand side. So let me just zoom this in a little bit. And I am going to specifically focus for our first function over here in the auto loan section. A payment function just indicates what your monthly or yearly payments are going to be. Now, the payment function is part of the financial group, and so what I'm going to do here before we use the payment function, I'm going to set this up. First of all, you can see for this auto loan, we're going to pay it back in 5 years, so those are your terms. The total number of payments. Now, the way you calculate the total number of payments, since you make monthly payments, and this is just a real simple formula, you take the number of years of the loan times how many months in a year? 12. And that's how many payments you're going to make for the life of the loan. Now, the loan amount is going to be $20,000, and the interest rate for the loan, and this is annual interest rate, is 3.9%. So we'll come down here to cell C12, and you can see that in C12 I have payment at the beginning of the month, and then in C13 payment at the end of the month, and I'll explain those two in a few minutes. Right now we're just going to go ahead and create this formula using the payment function in cell C12. So let's go ahead and go to the Formulas tab, and let's click on Financial. And from Financial, we're going to scroll down to PMT. And let me just move this over to the right. Now you can see the PMT function has actually 5 arguments and only 3 are required. So the first argument is the interest rate. Now keep in mind that we're making monthly payments and our interest rate is actually displayed as annual. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the cell that contains your annual interest rate, and since we're doing monthly and there's 12 months in a year, we're going to divide by 12. Now the second argument is the number of payments. Now we could have just taken the number of years and multiplied by 12, but since we already have this in our worksheet listed as the number of monthly payments, we'll just go ahead and select cell C8. Now the third argument is the amount of the loan. So since we don't have any down payment or anything, we're just going to select cell C9. That's the amount of the loan. And you can see right away it's giving you an idea of what or actually it's giving you the answer of what your monthly payments are going to be. Now this is going to display as a negative number because this is from the banker's perspective. So if you want it displayed as a positive number, what I do, and this is just a little trick that you will read somewhere, how to display your answer for payment function as a positive number, just make the present value a negative. Just put a minus sign in front of the cell address. Or you could have put a negative 20,000 in there as well. Now the future value, we usually don't put anything in future value for payments because we want our balance to be 0. So future value just means what it's going to be worth at the end of the life of the loan. You definitely don't want to owe anything. Type indicates whether the payment will be made at the beginning of the pay period or at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month. Now if you leave it alone and you don't type anything in the type argument, it's going to assume that the payment will be made at the end of the month. So we're just going to leave these last 2 arguments alone and just go ahead and click OK. So your monthly payments are going to be $367.43. So if we make any changes to this formula, to any of these cells that we use in the payment function, let's say we get a loan for $15,000, then it automatically will adjust. Let's say you get it at 2%. All right, let's say that you're going to make this a 3-year. So you can see the changes are very quick because of the formulas that we use. We created a formula to indicate the number of payments by taking the number of years times 12. So anytime we would change that number, our total number of payments would change. The loan amount is not a formula, but anytime we type something in here, you can see that the payment function is using that cell. And if we change the interest rate, we'll just change this back to 3.5. Now, if you take a look at our formula, equal sign, payment function, left parentheses, the first argument is the interest rate, and it's taking C10 and dividing by 12 because, again, the interest rate is displayed as annual and we want monthly. The number of payments, it's going to C8, but if we didn't have this in the worksheet, we would take the years times 12, and the present value, which is the amount of the loan, which is C9, and if you want your answer displayed as a positive number, then you want to make sure after you select C9 and it shows up in the argument text box that you put a minus sign in front. And that's a fantastic formula to use. I absolutely love it. Let's go ahead and do this again, but let's do this for, well, I'm sorry, let's do one more thing here. This is for the beginning of the month, and I actually did the end of the month. So I'm just going to show you what you can do to make it at the end of the month, or at the beginning of the month. So let me go ahead and delete that, and we'll start over again. I'll go to Financial. Let me come down to Payment. All right, the interest rate. So we take the annual interest rate and again divide by 12 because we are setting this up for monthly payments. Oh, let me start over on this one. Wasn't paying attention. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're going to take the interest rate and divide by 12. And then we'll go down to the number of payments. And since it's in the spreadsheet, we don't need to do a formula for that. And then we'll go to the present value, which is the amount that we're borrowing. And then once I see that in the cell, I'm going to put a minus sign in front of the cell address. And then since we're going to see what is the monthly payment if we make the payment the first of the month instead of at the end of the month, this is where we're going to put a number 1 in front of the type. And you can see that it gives you a description of the type argument. Type is a logical value. Payment at the beginning of the period equals 1, which means you have to type the number 1 in that text box. If it's a payment at the end of the month, you want to type the number 0 or just omit it. All right, so you can see that our monthly payment's a little less. And we'll go ahead and do this one more time for at the end of the month, just so you can see this function one more time. And again, the interest rate divided by 12. The number of payments, the present value, which is the amount that we are borrowing. Oh, let me get back to it. And since the payment's going to be made at the end of the month, we can omit this. And you can see it's about $1 difference. Now you're saying, well, what's $1? Well, take $1 times 60, and it's $60 more to make your payment at the end of the month than it is at the beginning of the month. Now, if this were a home loan, let's say it's going to take you 20 years, and you are borrowing for a $150,000 home, and the interest rate is 4.75%. You can see that your monthly payments at the beginning of the month is $965.51. If you make the payment at the end of the month, it's going to cost you a little less than $4. And if you actually did the calculation, and I'm just going to come down here and show you, if you take 4 times 250 payments, it's going to cost you $960 more to make that payment at the end of the month than at the beginning of the month. So it can add up depending on how much you're borrowing. So that's the payment function. It's a really neat function to use. Now let's move over to the future value function. The future value function is more for investments. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's say that we open up a money market account or an IRS account, and an IRA account, and let's see, we're going to save for 5 years, and the total number of deposits. So if we're going to do this every month, we're going to just create a formula, take the number of the years of the money market certificate, all right, times 12. So you're going to make 60 payments. You're going to deposit $50 each month, and to open the account, you're going to have to open it up with $1,000. And this is my wishful thinking that you would earn annually 5.25%. So let's go ahead and go into cell H12 and let's use the future value. Now again, keep in mind I indicated that future value is for investments. So we're going to go to the financial group on the formulas tab, go to future value, and you have 5 arguments. 3 are required. I'm just going to move this over so we can see both of them. All right, for the interest rate, all right, we're going to go to the annual interest rate and again divide by 12. The number of payments, since we already have that in our worksheet, we can just select cell H8 that contains the number of payments. And the payment, this is your monthly payment. Now present value means how much is the account worth at the very beginning, all right? And that's usually how much you open up the account with. And we'll make the payments at the beginning of the month. Now this is where I have to do a little playing, but I believe if we one of these we have to make a minus sign if you want this to be a positive number. Okay. Let me come back to you on this one. All right, we'll go ahead and click OK. And it's going to show in parentheses, but the value at the end of the 5 years should be $4,736.49. So that's the future value. So again, these are two really useful functions, both for consumers and for business. And please make sure you refer to your book for these two functions, and enjoy.